The village of Erindor was quiet that morning. The sun rose slowly over green fields, and smoke rose from small houses where families cooked their first meal of the day. Children ran between the narrow streets, chasing each other with laughter. Old men sat outside their doors, telling old stories about the times when dragons ruled the skies. But no one believed those stories anymore. Dragons were only legends now. At least, that is what the people thought. In the middle of the village lived a boy named Kale. He was small, thin, and often called weak by the other children. While others helped their families in the fields or carried water from the river, Kale always struggled. Even lifting a bucket of water was hard for him. People whispered that he would never grow strong, that he would never matter. But fate was watching Kale. That morning, while Kale sat alone near the river, staring at his reflection, the sky suddenly grew dark. Clouds moved unnaturally fast, covering the sun. A low sound, deep like thunder, shook the air. Villagers looked up. Mothers pulled their children close. The old men stopped speaking. Then it came. A massive shadow passed over the fields. A pair of enormous wings stretched across the sky. Scales that shone like black steel reflected the dim light. A dragon, real, alive, and terrifying, descended from the clouds. Its roar split the silence. Birds flew from the trees in panic, and the ground trembled when it landed near the village. People screamed and ran. Some tried to hide in their houses. Others dropped to their knees, praying. But the dragon did not chase them. It did not burn their homes. Instead, its golden eyes searched slowly, moving from one face to another. It was looking for something. Or someone. Kale froze in fear. His body refused to move. He wanted to run, but his legs were weak. The dragon's eyes fell upon him. It stared for a long moment, as if it already knew who he was. The villagers shouted at Kale. "Run, boy! Get away from here!" But Kale could not move. His chest rose and fell quickly. He was trapped in the dragon's gaze. Then, with a sudden move, the dragon spread its wings and leapt forward. Its claws reached down. Before Kale could even scream, he was lifted high into the sky. The people cried out in horror. "Why him? Why take the boy? Please, leave him." But the dragon did not answer. With powerful strokes of its wings, it rose higher and higher, carrying Kale away. The village grew smaller below, until it looked like nothing more than tiny dots on the ground. Kale struggled in the dragon's grip. He felt the wind tear past his face, the cold air biting at his skin. His heart pounded in his chest. "Why me?" he whispered, his voice lost in the storm of air around him. Hours seemed to pass as the dragon flew across mountains and rivers. Finally, it descended toward a dark range of cliffs. The rocks were sharp and lifeless, and the sky above them was filled with heavy clouds. The dragon landed at the entrance of a cave so large it looked like the mouth of a giant beast. It dropped Kale onto the ground, hard but not deadly. He coughed, his body trembling. When he looked up, the dragon's head was above him, so close he could feel its hot breath. He closed his eyes, waiting for fire, waiting for the end. But no fire came. Instead, the dragon turned and walked deeper into the cave. Its tail dragged across the stone floor, sending echoes through the dark tunnel. Kale sat for a moment, confused, then slowly stood up. He had no choice but to follow. Inside, the cave was not what he expected. It was not just stone and shadows. Strange lights glowed from the walls, soft blue symbols that moved like rivers of energy. Machines stood half buried in the rock, old but still alive with quiet hums. Kale's eyes widened. This was not a natural cave. It was something else, something ancient. The dragon finally stopped in a wide chamber. The ceiling was so high Kale could not see it clearly. Symbols covered the walls, spiraling into patterns that seemed to tell a story. He felt a strange pull, like the symbols were alive, whispering secrets he could not understand. The dragon turned its head back to him. For the first time, Kale saw not just a beast, but intelligence. The eyes were not wild. They were calm, watching him carefully, almost like a judge. Kale's voice shook. "Why me? Why bring me here? I am nobody. I am weak." The dragon did not answer. It lowered its head closer, so close that Kale could see his reflection in the golden eyes. The reflection looked strange. Behind his own face was a faint glow, like a mark waiting to appear. Kale stumbled back, breathing fast. He wanted to scream, to escape, but his legs could not carry him. The dragon finally opened its mouth. The sound that came out was deep, ancient, and filled with power. It was not just a growl. It was words. You are the one. Kale's eyes widened. He did not understand. The one. The one for what? The cave lights grew brighter, as if the walls themselves had heard the words. The symbols moved faster, glowing like fire. Kale felt the ground shake beneath him. He pressed his hands against the stone to stay steady. Fear filled him. But behind the fear was something else, curiosity. He knew, in that moment, his life would never be the same. And in the village far away, the people whispered in fear and confusion. They did not know why the dragon had chosen the weakest boy among them. But they knew one thing: this was only the beginning. The cave was silent except for the sound of Kale's shaky breathing. The boy stood frozen, his back pressed against the cold wall. The dragon's words echoed again and again in his head. You are the one. He wanted to believe it was a dream, some nightmare he would wake from. But the glowing walls, the humming machines, and the golden eyes watching him were all too real. The dragon turned away, its claws scraping against the stone floor. It walked deeper into the chamber, where the strange symbols glowed brighter. Kale felt his legs trembling, but he forced himself to follow. He knew running was useless. Even if he escaped the cave, the dragon could catch him in one heartbeat. The chamber opened wider, and Kale gasped. In the center stood a huge object, half buried in the rock, half alive with light. It looked like a throne, but also like a machine. Cables and roots of crystal spread from its base, running across the ground like frozen rivers. Above it, carved into the walls, were giant murals. They showed dragons and humans standing together in battle against some shadowy figures. Kale stepped closer. His eyes traced the carvings. In one picture, a boy held a glowing mark on his hand, just like the faint glow he had seen in his reflection. His heart raced faster. He whispered, almost to himself, This is me." The dragon lowered its massive head beside him. Its voice was deep and heavy, but clearer now, as if the cave itself helped translate the ancient language. Long ago, humans and dragons were not enemies. We fought together. We bled together. But then came the betrayal. The murals seemed to shift in the light, showing humans turning their blades against dragons. Fire and destruction filled the carvings. Kale stepped back in shock. The dragon continued, its golden eyes never leaving him. "Your people broke the bond. They hunted us. They trapped us. They forgot the truth." Kale shook his head quickly. No, that cannot be. Dragons are only stories. My people never saw you. You are myths." The dragon's chest rumbled with a deep sound that might have been a laugh. "Myth? Do myths carry you across the sky? Do myths burn cities to ash? We hid, boy. We hid for centuries, waiting for the bloodline to appear again." Kale's body froze. "Bloodline?" he asked. The dragon lowered its snout until Kale could feel its hot breath. "You are descended from the one who first freed us. The mark of that blood sleeps in you. And now, it has awakened." As if in answer, a sharp pain ran across Kale's hand. He cried out and looked down. A glowing mark, faint but clear, spread across his skin like fire etched into flesh. It pulsed with light, the same light as the cave symbols. Kale stumbled backward, clutching his hand. "No! This isn't true. I am weak. I am nothing." The dragon's gaze hardened. "You are chosen, not because of your strength, but because of who you are. The weak often carry the greatest power, hidden until the time comes." Kale shook his head again, his voice breaking. "I don't want this. I just want to go home. Please, let me go." But the dragon turned away. Its massive wings shifted, sending dust and sparks into the air. "There is no home for you now. The enemy has already awakened. They will come for you. They will come for us all." The boy felt his stomach twist. "Enemy? What enemy?" The dragon raised its head high, its eyes glowing in the cave's light. "They are not from this world. They came long ago, enslaving dragons, using us as their weapons. Humans broke the chains once, with the help of the bloodline. But the enemy never died. They only waited. And now, they return." Kale's heart pounded. The cave seemed to grow colder. He remembered the old stories, the ones the elders whispered by the fire. Stories of monsters from the stars. Stories no one believed. He whispered, "It cannot be true." The dragon leaned close again, its voice low and heavy. You have already felt them. When the sky darkened. When fear filled the air. They are here, Kale. They are watching. And they will not stop until you are theirs. Kale's breath caught in his throat. The thought of creatures hunting him, creatures older and stronger than anything he knew, made him shiver. He wanted to scream, to deny it, but the mark on his hand burned brighter, as if confirming every word. The dragon moved toward the strange throne-like machine. It touched the surface gently with its claw, and the machine came alive. Lights pulsed, and the cave shook with a low hum. Kale stared as shapes appeared above the machine, holograms of giant warships, creatures with glowing eyes, and worlds burning. The dragon spoke again. This is what waits. This is why I took you. Not to harm you, but to prepare you. The last child of the bloodline must rise. Or everything will end. Kale fell to his knees. Tears blurred his vision. He whispered, broken and afraid. I cannot. I am too weak. I am no hero. The dragon's eyes softened, just slightly. No hero is born ready. Heroes are made in fire. And your fire is only beginning. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently. Dust rained from the cave ceiling. The holograms above the throne flickered, then vanished. Kale looked around in panic. What's happening? He cried. The dragon raised its head sharply, eyes glowing with alarm. They are here. Kale's blood ran cold. Who? The dragon growled, its voice filled with anger. The enemy. They have found us. And outside the cave, far away but growing closer, the sound of strange machines echoed in the night. The cave shook again, louder this time. Stones fell from the ceiling, and dust filled the air. Kale covered his head, coughing as the ground trembled beneath him. The strange glowing symbols on the walls flickered like fading fire. The dragon's voice roared through the chamber. Stay close to me, boy. Kale stumbled forward, his heart racing. He could hear it now, heavy metallic sounds outside the cave. Machines. Engines. The enemy was real. He wanted to run. He wanted to find some dark corner and hide forever. But something inside him kept moving his feet. Fear, yes, but also something else. A strange pull, like invisible hands were pushing him toward his fate. The dragon spread its wings wide, the scales along its body glowing faintly as if energy flowed beneath them. They come for you, it growled. But you are not ready. You must listen. Kale shook his head violently, his voice cracking with panic. No. I cannot do this. I'm not a warrior. I'm just a boy. The dragon lowered its massive head until its golden eyes locked onto his. For a moment, the cave and the shaking world outside seemed to fade. There was only Kale and those eyes. Blood remembers, the dragon said. Your body is weak, yes. But your spirit carries the power of your ancestors. You are not chosen for what you are, but for what you can become. Kale wanted to argue, to deny it, but his hand burned again. The glowing mark shone brighter, lighting the cave like a small sun. He gasped, clutching it tightly. The pain was sharp, but behind the pain was a strange energy, like fire rushing through his veins. He fell to his knees, gasping. Visions filled his mind. He saw men and women long ago standing beside dragons, fighting shadowy creatures with glowing weapons. He saw fire in the skies, oceans boiling, and worlds falling. And in every vision, one figure carried the same glowing mark. Kale screamed and pulled his hand back, but the vision vanished. His chest rose and fell rapidly, sweat covering his face. The dragon's voice rumbled softly now, almost like a whisper. You have seen it. The past. The bond between human and dragon. That bond lives again, in you. Kale shook his head desperately. No. I don't want it. I never asked for this. The dragon's eyes narrowed. No one asks for destiny. Destiny takes. Destiny burns. And only the brave can survive it. The ground shook again, and this time Kale heard it clearly. Strange voices, metallic and harsh, echoing through the cave entrance. The enemy was coming closer. Kale stood trembling, his legs barely holding him. What do they want with me? He whispered. The dragon's gaze hardened. They want the mark. With it, they will enslave dragons again. With it, they will destroy humanity. You are the key. Without you, both our worlds will fall. Kale's mouth went dry. He had always been the weakest boy, the one people laughed at, the one nobody believed in. And now this dragon, this ancient creature, was telling him the fate of the world rested on his shoulders. Tears burned in his eyes. I can't be that person. I'm not strong. I'm nothing. The dragon moved closer, lowering itself until its head was almost touching the ground. Its great body bent low, as if bowing before him. Kale froze. A dragon bowing? You are more than you believe, the dragon said softly. Strength is not only in muscle. It is in heart. And yours beats with the blood of heroes. Kale stood in silence, his body shaking, his hand still glowing. For the first time, he felt something strange in his chest, not pride, not courage, but a small spark. Hope. The voices outside grew louder. Shadows moved at the entrance of the cave. Strange red lights pierced the darkness. The enemy was here. The dragon lifted its head again, fire gathering deep in its throat. You must decide now, Kale. Run and be hunted until you die, or stand, and accept who you are. Kale looked at his hand. The mark pulsed with energy, alive, waiting. He remembered the villagers calling him weak, useless, nothing. He remembered the way they looked at him with pity. And for the first time, he wanted to prove them wrong. His fists tightened. His breathing steadied. Slowly, he raised his glowing hand. I will try. The dragon's eyes shone brighter, and for the first time, its voice carried pride. Then you are chosen. The cave exploded with sound as the enemy entered, strange soldiers made of steel and shadow, carrying weapons that hissed with energy. Their voices echoed in a language Kale did not understand. The dragon roared, fire bursting from its jaws, filling the chamber with light and heat. The soldiers screamed as flames consumed them, but more pushed forward. Kale stumbled back, his heart pounding. The mark on his hand burned brighter, and he felt a strange connection, like a bridge between him and the dragon. He could feel the dragon's power, its strength, its fire. And for one terrifying moment, he realized he could control it. The dragon's voice thundered in his mind, not through sound but through thought. Together. Kale raised his hand, and the fire answered. Flames burst brighter, stronger, shaping themselves like they obeyed his will. The soldiers staggered, caught in the storm of heat. Kale gasped in shock, barely believing what he had done. His hand trembled, but he did not drop it. The dragon roared again, this time not alone. For the first time in his life, Kale felt powerful. But the battle was only beginning. Outside, the metallic roar of war machines shook the air. Dozens more soldiers waited. And above the cliffs, something vast moved through the clouds, a shadow so large it blotted out the stars. Kale stared in horror, his voice breaking. What is that? The dragon's eyes narrowed, its voice dark with dread. Their master. The true enemy. And the sky itself seemed to burn as the great ship of the invaders descended. The night sky outside the cave tore open with light. A colossal shadow blotted out the stars as a massive warship descended slowly, its metallic body covered with glowing red veins like scars. The air shook with a low, humming vibration that pressed against the chest, making it hard to breathe. Kale stood frozen at the cave mouth, staring upward. His knees trembled, and his throat went dry. This was no dragon, no beast of legend. This was something older, darker, something from the stars. The dragon stepped forward, wings stretched wide to shield Kale. Its golden eyes burned with fury. They have returned, it growled. From the ship's underside, long beams of red light shot down, striking the ground. In seconds, strange machines walked out of the glow, towering figures of metal and shadow. Their limbs were sharp, their heads crowned with glowing eyes, and their movements made no sound. Behind them marched dozens of smaller soldiers, their weapons crackling with energy. Kale's heart pounded in his ears. He whispered, barely able to speak. What are they? The dragon's voice rumbled deep, heavy with anger. They are the Zytheron. Long ago, they came to this world. They enslaved my kind, turning us into living weapons. Humanity broke their chains once, but now they rise again. Kale shook his head in disbelief. His glowing hand trembled. But why me? Why do they want me? The dragon turned its gaze toward him, eyes hard as steel. Because your bloodline carries the only power that can break them again. The mark in your flesh is a key. With it, they can control every dragon once more. That is why they hunt you. Kale's stomach twisted. He looked at the soldiers marching closer, their glowing weapons aimed directly at the cave. He felt like the weakest boy in the world standing against the strongest army in the universe. The dragon lowered its head beside him. You must not let them take you. If they succeed, your people will fall. And dragons will become slaves once more. Kale swallowed hard. His leg screamed to run, but his heart whispered another word, fight. Before he could answer, the cave shook violently. The enemy soldiers fired beams of red energy, blasting the rocks apart. Shards flew across the chamber. Kale ducked, shielding his head. The dragon roared, unleashing a river of fire that lit up the darkness. The flames struck the front line of soldiers, melting their armor into glowing ash. The air filled with the smell of burning metal. But the Scytheron did not scream. They advanced without fear, their glowing eyes fixed on Kale. Kale's hand burned with light. He raised it instinctively, and a stream of energy shot outward, joining with the dragon's fire. The flames doubled in size, roaring down the tunnel like a living storm. The soldiers were torn apart, their bodies crashing against the cave walls. But even as they fell, more marched forward. The red glow from the ship above grew brighter, and Kale realized with horror, this was only the beginning. Suddenly, a new figure stepped out of the light. Taller than the rest, armored in black metal, with 4 blazing red eyes. Its voice cut through the cave, cold and sharp like a blade. Child of the bloodline, it said. You belong to us. Kale stumbled backward. His chest tightened as fear gripped him. The figure raised its hand, and instantly, Kale felt a pull inside his body. The glowing mark on his hand burned hotter, and his strength drained as if invisible chains wrapped around him. He fell to his knees, gasping. Help! I can't breathe! The dragon roared and lunged forward, snapping its jaws. Fire exploded from its throat, striking the black-armored leader. The figure raised a shield of red energy, blocking the flames. Sparks filled the air as fire clashed against power. The dragon growled. Stay away from him! The armored figure's voice echoed again. You cannot hide him. His blood belongs to the Scytheron. His mark will open the chains. His spirit will bend. He will serve us, whether he wishes it or not. Kale shook his head desperately, clutching his burning hand. No, I am not yours. But deep inside, he felt the pull growing stronger. It was as if the mark itself was trying to answer the enemy's call. The dragon turned sharply toward him. Kale! Resist it! The mark answers your will, not theirs. You must fight. Kale clenched his teeth. His heart raced. He thought of his village, the faces of the people who once laughed at him, the mothers who screamed when the dragon carried him away. He thought of the children running in the fields, unaware of the storm about to fall on them. If he gave in, all of them would suffer. All of them would die. He screamed, raising his hand high. The mark flared with white fire, brighter than before. The pull vanished, replaced with a surge of strength. Energy shot from his palm, slamming into the armored figure. The blast cracked its shield and sent it staggering backward. The cave shook again as rubble fell. The soldiers hesitated for the first time. The dragon's voice thundered with pride. Yes, Kale. You see now. The mark obeys you. Kale gasped for breath, sweat dripping down his face. His body felt weak, but inside, something had changed. For the first time, he was not helpless. For the first time, he had fought back. The armored figure rose slowly, its red eyes blazing brighter. Its voice carried fury. So be it. You have chosen to fight. Then we will burn your world to ash. The ground shook as the warship above opened its underbelly. Dozens of machines descended, their bodies glowing like molten steel. The air filled with the sound of war. Kale looked at the endless army. His courage flickered like a candle in the storm. He turned to the dragon, whispering in fear. There are too many, we cannot win. The dragon's eyes glowed fiercely. Together, boy. Together we may stand. But alone, we will fall. And as the first wave of Scytheron machines charged into the cave, Kale felt the mark on his hand ignite again. The battle for the world had truly begun. The cave shook as the Scytheron army stormed forward. Their glowing red weapons hissed through the air, striking the stone walls and shattering them into dust. Sparks and smoke filled the chamber. Kale stumbled backward, coughing, his glowing hand trembling at his side. The mark pulsed with painful heat, answering every blast, every strike, as if begging him to use it. The dragon roared, unleashing another storm of fire. The flames consumed dozens of machines, melting their black armor into pools of liquid steel. But for every soldier that fell, 2 more stepped forward. Kale's heart pounded. The air stank of burning metal and smoke. He could barely hear his own thoughts over the chaos. His body screamed to run, to hide, to escape. But the dragon's voice boomed over the battlefield. "Stand, Kale. You cannot run from this. If you flee, your people will die." Kale shook his head desperately, tears blurring his eyes. "I can't. I'm not strong enough. Look at them, there are too many." The dragon turned, fire glowing deep in its throat. "You think strength is in the arm? No. Strength is in choice. Decide, Kale. Decide now. Will you run, or will you rise?" The boy's chest tightened. The words echoed through him. Strength is in choice. Another blast struck nearby, throwing Kale across the chamber. He hit the ground hard, pain shooting through his ribs. He groaned, clutching his side. His vision spun, and for a moment, he almost gave up. But then, he heard voices. Not alien voices. Human ones. "Where is Kale?" "They took him. The dragon took him." "Why would it take him?" The echoes weren't real. They were memories, voices from his village, the people who never believed in him. They saw him as weak, useless, nothing. Kale's eyes filled with anger. Not at them, but at himself, for always believing their words. For always hiding in their shadows. His hand burned brighter. He looked down and saw the mark glowing like fire. In its light, he saw himself, not the weak boy by the river, but someone else. Someone stronger. The dragon's voice cut through his thoughts. "Kale, choose." The boy clenched his jaw. His fear was still there, but something else rose above it, determination. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself to his feet. His glowing hand rose into the air. "I will not run," he whispered. His voice shook, but the words were true. "I will fight." The mark blazed, brighter than ever. White fire burst from his palm, spreading across the chamber. It joined with the dragon's flames, twisting into a single storm of power. The Zytheron soldiers staggered, their red glow flickering. The armored leader raised its hand, trying to control the mark again. "You cannot resist forever, child. You are ours." Kale shouted back, his voice stronger than before. "No. I am not yours. I am not weak anymore." The mark exploded in a wave of energy. The blast shook the entire cave, hurling soldiers against the walls. For the first time, the Zytheron line broke. The dragon's golden eyes shone with pride. "Yes, Kale. This is your power. You are not alone. You never were." But the victory was small. Outside, the warship roared, sending more machines down. The cave trembled as giant claws of metal dug into the mountainside. Kale staggered, exhausted. His body felt drained, his knees weak. The power inside him was strong, but it burned like fire, threatening to consume him. He looked at the endless army and whispered, almost to himself, "How can we win? There are too many. Even with the mark, I can't fight them all." The dragon lowered its head beside him, its voice low and steady. "Then do not fight alone. The bond is not only power, it is connection. Open yourself, Kale. Let me in. Together, we are more than one. Together, we are stronger." Kale's eyes widened. He felt fear again, fear of losing himself, of becoming nothing inside the dragon's will. But he also felt the truth of the words. He looked at his glowing hand, then at the dragon. His choice stood before him like 2 paths. Run, and live as a coward until the enemy found him. Or accept the bond, and face the storm as something greater. Kale's chest rose and fell quickly. Sweat dripped from his face. He clenched his glowing hand and whispered, "I choose you." The dragon's eyes closed, a rumble of approval vibrating through its chest. "Then we are one." The mark on Kale's hand flared, and suddenly, he felt a rush unlike anything before. His vision blurred as fire, strength, and ancient memory poured into him. He could see through the dragon's eyes, feel the beating of its wings, the power of its fire. The bond was complete. Kale gasped, half in fear, half in awe. I can feel you." "And I you," the dragon answered. The armored leader stepped forward, raising its weapon. Its 4 red eyes blazed with fury. "No matter. Bond or not, you will fall. And your world will follow." Kale raised his hand, energy swirling around it. His voice, once weak, now carried strength. "Not while I breathe." The dragon spread its wings wide. Together, they roared, fire and light joining as one. The cave shook with the force of their combined will. The enemy army froze, even for a moment. The power was undeniable. But the war was far from over. Outside, the massive warship began to open, revealing something even larger waiting inside. A weapon the size of a mountain, built to crush entire worlds. Kale stared in horror as its shadow swallowed the land. His voice trembled, but determination burned in his eyes. What is that?" The dragon growled, its voice filled with dread. "The end, unless we stop it." The earth trembled beneath the weight of the Zytheron warship. Its enormous body hovered above the mountains, red light pouring from its underbelly. The ship's shadow swallowed the land, stretching far beyond the cave. Kale stood beside the dragon at the cave's mouth, his glowing hand raised, his breath heavy. Sweat dripped from his face, but his eyes no longer held the weakness of a frightened boy. The bond between him and the dragon pulsed with fire, their hearts beating as one. The dragon's golden eyes narrowed as the warship split open, revealing something hidden inside. A monstrous weapon, larger than a castle, slowly descended on pillars of light. Its shape was strange, almost alive, with spikes of metal curling like bones. At its core glowed a red heart, pulsing like a living creature. Kale's stomach twisted at the sight. What is that thing?" The dragon growled low, the sound shaking the ground. "A world eater. A weapon forged to burn entire planets. They will unleash it to destroy humanity, and to enslave my kind once more." Kale's chest tightened. The village flashed in his mind, his people, their homes, the children running in the fields. If this weapon fired, everything he knew would be gone. He clenched his glowing hand tighter. "Then we stop it. No matter what." The dragon turned its head, its eyes searching him. "You understand what that means. To fight it, you must give yourself fully to the bond. There is no turning back. If we fail, you may not survive." Kale swallowed hard. Fear whispered in his chest, but his voice was steady. "If I run, my people die. If I fight, maybe they live. I choose to fight." The dragon bowed its head slightly. "Then let us end this together." The bond flared. Energy surged through Kale's body, fire rushing through his veins like molten rivers. His vision widened. He no longer saw just through his eyes, but through the dragon's as well. He felt the stretch of mighty wings, the crackle of fire deep in its chest, the weight of ancient strength. Together, they leapt into the sky. The Zytheron soldiers below opened fire, red beams slicing through the air. But Kale raised his hand, and shimmering shields of light appeared, blocking the blasts. The dragon roared, unleashing torrents of fire that swept across the battlefield, turning machines into molten wrecks. Higher and higher they soared, toward the descending World Eater. The warship's defenses came alive, turrets rotated, spewing beams of energy. The sky lit with explosions. Kale's heart pounded. He guided the dragon with his thoughts, weaving through the fire. Each time a blast nearly struck, he felt it before it came, moving as one with his companion. They broke through the barrage, racing straight for the weapon's glowing heart. Kale raised his burning hand, pouring everything into a single strike. White fire erupted, slamming into the World Eater's core. The weapon shuddered, its glow flickering. For a moment, hope filled Kale's chest. But then, the armored leader appeared, rising on a platform of red energy, its four eyes blazing with fury. "Child of the bloodline," it roared. "You cannot destroy what was forged before your world even crawled from the mud. The World Eater is eternal. And so is our rule." The leader raised its hand, and chains of red light shot out, wrapping around the dragon's wings. Kale cried out as the bond seared with pain. They plummeted, crashing onto the mountain below. Kale coughed, forcing himself up. The mark on his hand pulsed wildly, fighting against the chains. He could feel the dragon's pain, its wings bound, its fire choked. "No," Kale gasped. "I won't let you take him." He thrust his hand forward, and the mark flared brighter than ever. The white fire tore through the red chains, shattering them like glass. The dragon roared, free once more. The armored leader staggered, its shield cracking. For the first time, it showed fear. Kale's voice rang out, strong and defiant. "This world is not yours. I will not bow to you. We will never bow to you." The dragon surged upward, Kale's fire merging with its own. Together, they unleashed a storm of flame and light, striking the World Eater's heart with unstoppable force. The sky split open with a thunderous explosion. The weapon's core shattered, and red fire consumed its body. The warship above shook violently, alarms echoing through the air. Kale and the dragon landed hard on the mountainside, watching as the massive weapon fell apart, its pieces crashing into the valley below. For a brief, shining moment, silence returned. The World Eater was gone. The Zytheron soldiers fled into the night, their machines burning in the ruins. Kale collapsed to his knees, exhausted. His hands still glowed faintly, but the fire inside him was dim. He looked at the dragon with tired eyes. We did it." The dragon lowered its head beside him, voice soft for the first time. "Yes. You have done what your ancestors once did. You are truly the chosen." Kale let out a weak laugh, tears in his eyes. "I was never chosen before. Not for anything." The dragon's eyes gleamed with pride. "Now you are chosen for everything." But their victory did not last. The night sky trembled as the Zytheron warship pulled back. And then, another shadow appeared. Larger. Vast. A shape that dwarfed the first ship. A mothership. Its size blotted out the moon, its thousands of red eyes glowing like a sea of fire. The air grew colder, heavier. Kale's breath caught in his throat. "There are more." The dragon's gaze hardened. This was only the vanguard. The true army waits above the stars. And now, they know the bloodline lives. Kale stared at the sky, fear returning, but this time, he did not bow to it. His glowing hand tightened into a fist. "Then let them come," he whispered. The dragon spread its wings wide, its roar shaking the heavens. Together, boy and beast looked into the endless night. The war was far from over. It had only just begun.